Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Educational 80 podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but first, as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. So take the next 3 minutes. These are all great companies that I used as an AD. You should be using them too. So listen to our shout outs, then listen to our interview, and then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Gipper for their support of the podcast. Your students are on social media, and if they don't see content that acknowledges their accomplishments and promotes your program, you're missing out on a great opportunity. Go to Gipper.com. It's used and trusted by over 20,000 high school and college programs. And the Gipper team is going to have you creating world class content in seconds, whether it's a social media post to celebrate a victory or an entire newsletter that's telling everybody about the great things your program offers. The Gipper team will have you creating world class content in seconds. Go to Gipper.com for more information. That's Gipper.com. We also want to thank Hometown Ticketing. Hometown's the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Whether it's more support, more security, or more customization for your school, Hometown is going to help you make the best online ticketing solution. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more. We want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the different events, or to show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touch screen video consoles. They're also a great way to share your school's unique history and brag a little bit about your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check them out today. We want to say thank you to Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's from Ohio, but my assistant AD did, and it was a great experience. It's very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And while you're completing your master's degree, you're also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. The website is ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. We want to thank our friends at Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, all of our coaches, just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes love the videos, and our parents love the streaming, but there's so much more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. We want to thank our friends at Home Campus. You've heard me say before, Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day, whether it's scheduling or rosters, results. Their athletic eligibility and clearance platform alone is worth the price. To get started, just go to homecampus.com. That's it, homecampus.com. We'd like to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. It's probably one of the best purchases I ever made as an athletic director. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. You're going to be very glad you did. We also want to say thank you to Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are over. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with great success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it because it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. Go to snapraise.com. And we'd like to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic directors already get feedback, but a lot of times it's from a very small group that only wants to complain. Athletic Surveys is going to connect you to that group so you can hear their concerns, but they're also going to connect you to the 98% that supports your program. And having that positive data is incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with a frustrated parent or student athlete, or maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going out to Utah today, and we're going to be visiting with Chris Shipman. Chris is a certified master athletic administrator, has a tremendous background as a leader, and he is the assistant director for the UIAAA, the Utah Athletic Administrators Association. Got to give a shout out to our mutual friend, Missy Mackey Whiters, who works with Chris in the UIAAA office, recommended Chris as a guest. I know he's also been on another good friend, Hutch Hunter's podcast. So, Chris Shipman, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here. One thing I'm at the Utah High School Activities Association, not the UIAAA. We partner with them, but we are a separate organization. Um, Missy and Hutch are great friends and great coworkers. I'm lucky to have them in my network here in Utah. So
Oh, well, thanks for making that correction. Bad on me. The Utah High School Athletic Association. All right. So thank you, Chris. Let's go ahead and jump right in. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up. Maybe take us up through your own college days, and then we'll take a break, hear more about your career later. But what's the origin story for Chris Shipman?
born and raised in Salt Lake City, Utah. I was a little bit different if you're familiar with Utah at all, it's big families, and I was an only child. So growing up, athletics was my connection to the community. So it's sorry, it's something that means a lot to me. So like I said, it was my connection to the community. Going to high school, went to Cottonwood High School while I was there. You know, growing up, I played football, I wrestled, and then played rugby as well. And my parents told me I could have a job or play sports, so it was an easy thing for me to do. That decision was easy for me to make in those young ages. After high school, I was able to attend Southern Utah University and played football there. Um, Loved being in Cedar City. One of the reasons I went there was I knew I wanted to get into teaching and coaching. And if you're familiar with Southern Utah University, it's called the Coaching Factory. So it was again another easy decision. They wanted me to play football there, and I wanted to go to school there, so it worked out well. Cards just aligned for me. Had a great time there. Made my lifelong friends were all my teammates in college and in high school. Um, After that, graduated in 2005, and started kind of a coaching career in the college side of it. And that kind of leads us into our next segment.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. And I'm glad you pointed out, the cradle of coaches. We want to hear more about that. I want to go all the way back to growing up. Now, you grew up in Salt Lake City, but, was it suburbs? Were you on the fringes? What
It was
was it
suburbs.
like? Backyard football, street basketball. What was that experience like for you?
It was all of that. So, grew up in a suburb of Salt Lake called Holiday. Um, Being an only child was the nice thing was behind me there were 8 boys, and across the street there were 6 boys. I fell right in the middle of them, so I just kind of was that middle child that neither one of those families noticed if I was there, and just kind of fit into it. But it was, yeah, the street basketball and football were common, and I remember being in sixth or seventh grade, and my neighbors had a huge cottonwood tree in their front yard that they took out, and we were excited because now we could use their yard. Our football field just got a little bit longer, and we can now go driveway to driveway for our end zones. instead of having to run through the driveways and do that fun stuff where you're, and then, yeah, just hours, in the front yard with the basketball, playing that. I do remember being in high school and after football being told, go do another sport. Well, what's everyone want to go do? We want to go play basketball. So I go to the basketball tryouts, and the basketball coach slowly escorted my way into the wrestling room and informed the wrestling coach that I was lost. So that's how I ended up wrestling. So I don't know if those hours of basketball paid off in the basketball arena, but it definitely helped me in wrestling. Those backyard basketball games.
Right, those can be pretty physical at times. Um, Obviously, I'm a lot older than you, and doing two sports and three sports, that was the norm back in my day. For you, did you ever have, was there ever any, for lack of a better word, pressure to, Chris, you shouldn't be, playing football, you should train year round for wrestling, or was there anything like that while you were in school?
Nope. So I graduated from high school in 2000. So I'm kind of I feel like I'm the fence post of, where you did everything and then where you specialized. I was kind of right in the middle of that. I was fortunate to where our high school coaches believe that you needed to be competing, and those weights aren't going to hit you back. They're not going to make you think. They're going to always just be there, and they're a great tool. But that tool of competing is much more valuable than going and pushing weight around in the weight room. In training on those things, they believed in that cross training, and they were also coaches that coach those other sports. Um, I think what we've seen in our state is coaches also now specializing in sports where your coaches probably were coached three sports as well.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I think it's kind of changed, kind of coaching wise and player participant wise on that specialization.
No, and you're absolutely right. And again, we had great coaches back then. We have great coaches now. As an AD, I was always looking for a coach who wanted to be an assistant in a second sport, help the
Mhm.
program. A good coach is a good coach. And, they might be really knowledgeable in one sport, but some of those principles can also apply and be used in a second sport as well. Thanks for mentioning that. Let's go and jump to college.
Yeah.
Can you think of a moment during that undergrad experience? Might have been in a course, might have been in an internship or student teaching that maybe at the time it didn't seem like much, but now looking back with experience and wisdom and perspective, you can kind of point to that moment and say, hey, that was a significant moment for me. Anything stick out?
I would say it was really when I got into the practicum and got back into the classrooms and working with kids, that kind of, this is what I want to be doing. That aha moment on I'm on the right track. Um, was watching the light bulbs go off for the kids.
I'm going to zero in on that, take a deeper dive. Any specific moment or moments during that practicum that jump out for you?
No, not a single moment, just a kind of collection of all of them, kind of just the the light bulbs popping everywhere, just the kind of going along with the time of year, the Christmas lights all twinkling and seeing that happen.
Oh no, I absolutely, I can relate to that. You're making me think of my own experiences 100 years ago. Let's go and take our first break. We're visiting today with Chris Shipman. Chris is a certified master athletic administrator. He's an assistant director with the Utah High School Activities Association. We're coming back with more, so please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thank you to our good friends at Gipper for their support. Your students are on social media, so are a lot of their parents. And if they're not seeing content that celebrates their accomplishments and promotes your program, you're missing out on a great opportunity. Go to Gipper.com. It's used and trusted by over 20,000 high schools and colleges. And the Gipper team is going to have you creating world-class content in seconds. Maybe it's a social media post to acknowledge a big win, or maybe it's a newsletter to promote all the great things that are happening in your program. Go to Gipper.com. I like to say it's so easy, even I can use it. That's Gipper.com. We also want to say thank you to Hometown Ticketing. Hometown's the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. And whether it's more support, more security, or more customization, the Hometown team is going to help you make the best online ticketing solution. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more. Welcome back, everybody. Once again, we're visiting today with Chris Shipman, Certified Master Athletic Administrator. Chris, you shared with our listeners, your college experience, the cradle of coaches. I just love that whole concept, that whole history. Um, what were some of those early jobs for you? Share your journey that has now brought you to the Utah High School Activities Association.
When I got done playing at Southern Utah, I was able to stay on and was a graduate assistant for 3 years there. And circling back to kind of what those lights, that's where I started seeing a lot of those lights going off with, coaching the players, especially at a high level, at the college level, where you're able to spend a lot of time with them and build a relationship with them. A lot of them are away from home for the first time, so they're looking for some mentorship and some guidance, and that was really where I kind of caught the bug, I guess, was during my time there. From there, I ended up going to Western Washington University, was there for a year, and they dropped football. And I kind of took a hard look and went, I don't know if the college coaching scene, with relocating across the country, everything is something I want to get into. Um, Moved back home to Salt Lake and started working in the high schools, coaching at Hunter High School, and then started teaching and coaching at Granger High School in West Valley, Utah. While I was there, I coached football, wrestling, and track and field. Was there for 10 years and absolutely loved my time there. I was also the AD for a time there, so I had a pretty full plate. During that time, I met my wife, and it was nice meeting her with the busy schedule as opposed to trying to create the busy schedule of coaching and doing that stuff post marriage. We kind of went into it established, and those norms were already set, which was great for us. Again, spent about 10 years at Granger doing those things. Then I had the opportunity to move to Granite School District, which is the school district that Granger High School is located in Salt Lake, as the PE curriculum specialist and the athletic director for the school district. Took that at a beautiful time in 2019, which then we all know what kind of happened after that. So I got to, uh, it was a blessing and a curse all at the same time, going through COVID at the district office, seeing the struggles that the schools were having to go through, and trying to provide that leadership and just the support that they needed to get through that. One of the things that my director at the time was talking to us, to our department, and some of them were getting upset about principals asking them to do this and do that. And our director finally looked at them and said, they're just people too. Everyone's trying to get through this. And that made the light bulb go off for me and went, everyone here is just trying to do the best they can. So let's all work kind of in the same way. While I was at the district, one of my main tasks was, we have a junior high. They were one of the few districts in the state that has a full junior high athletic department. So my one of my duties was acting as the activities association for the junior highs. It was me and a secretary and fortunately it was 15 schools, but we put together the soccer, basketball, volleyball, wrestling, track and field, and cross country for the junior high kids so they could have and what our goal there was, we followed all the NFHS rules and everything so that the kids knew in high school what that experience would be closest to. Um, we didn't want to go into some of the club rules where, you know, the games might be faster because we wanted to make sure that those kids when they went to high school had the best knew what they were getting into. And kind of so a lot of what we saw was kids doing club stuff, and then when they get to the high school and it's a little more serious or the games are longer, it's not just a practice on Wednesday and a game on Saturday, that they weren't used to that schedule. So we wanted to kind of implement that in micro doses in the junior high so they could kind of kids and parents could get used to and understand what those commitments are and how vital they are to the success in their education and in their personal lives.
That's an interesting model. Personally, I love it. Not every state, let's say, embraces the junior high age group. And I'm curious, how have you seen that? Have you seen the results that you were hoping for from that type of program, from reaching out and offering activities at the junior high level?
So again, it was just within the school district, and our board felt it was important that they continued that. Granite School District was lucky that they'd had junior high sports for 50 plus years. So they just wanted to keep continuing that model. The predecessor before me had set it up with following the NFHS and doing those to give them the best experience and to kind of have that governing body that we could turn to. That's kind of a double-sided question because the school district they're not the most successful in high school. It is more of a low-income urban area. So they have, while numbers are growing, they're not getting the athletes, if you will. But as far as what it does for the community and for the school, it's been a great asset for those communities to have those junior high sports in there.
Oh no, well, and that would be the number one answer or the number one goal is, yeah, we want to win some games, but oh, by the way, we're, making them better students, we're making them better
Yep.
citizens, and there's some community pride there. Um, as you made career-wise, as you made that move from building AD and coach and teacher and all the things that you were doing
Mhm.
to district athletic director, what were some things that I guess maybe we always use the expression, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
What were some things that you found out you didn't know, and how did you approach those particular aspects of the new county-wide job?
I guess the biggest thing would be I went from, being at the school from 7 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night to now essentially working a desk job, and my wife wasn't sure what to do with me. So that was the biggest adjustment we had to make was I was told to go find a hobby because she got used to all of that free time that she had. Um, the the biggest thing was realizing how big of the circle you now have, right? In the building, your circle is relatively small on your network of support. And then when you move into that district, your that circle gets a lot bigger. And with that comes more support and more problems and opinions that you get to wade through. The biggest thing I think for me was managing the different personalities that I had to deal with on a daily basis and trying to form a connection and build a relationship with someone that I might not choose to outside of my professional life, but knowing how vital it is to the success of the program and ultimately the kids that we have a good working relationship.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah. That's that 20,000 foot management as opposed to, boots on the ground. But I'm sure you got your boots on the ground a little bit. Um, Talk about how you ended up at your current position. We're going to take a deep dive into it, but was that something that, you heard about an opening and you pursued, or did they reach out to you? How did that all play out?
So 2 years ago, I was finishing my admin endorsement, and I was kind of at a crossroads with was I going to apply to do, intern admin within a school district at the same time that this job opened, and so I was kind of torn between these two. And one of the drawing points that drove me to the association was now I get to worry about the only part of school that I really liked. When I was in the district, I had to worry about curriculum maps and proficiency scales. Now with the association, I get to focus on the one thing that I enjoyed that kept me involved in school, which is the athletic and the activity side of it. Um, so it's that's kind of been the nicest part about moving to the association is dealing with that. The other thing I think that really drew me to kind of wanting to take on the athletic administration was growing up. My parents were both heavily involved in the little league programs, not coaching or doing that, but kind of running the behind the scenes. Um, so from the time I was 7 or 8, they were, doing the snack bar, painting the fields, um, helping certify coaches, doing weigh-ins for football, doing all of those things through the little league. So it's something that was just always present in my house. Um, that I just kind of, and I think that's where the draw came came to this position was kind of growing up, seeing those sacrifices and how much the impact that my parents had through their work as volunteers for those little leagues and the impact that they had on the kids that don't even know their names.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Let's go and take another quick break, and then I want to dive into the Utah Activities Association with Chris Shipman, our guest. Please stay with us. We're coming back with more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We'd like to thank our good friends at Vital Signs Wall of Fame for their support. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the different events, or to show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touch screen video consoles. It's also a great way to showcase your school's unique history and brag about your proudest moments. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We'd like to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's from Ohio University, but my assistant athletic director did, along with hundreds of others, and it was a great experience. It's very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And while you're earning your master's degree, you're also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. The website is ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. We'd also like to say thank you to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, all of our coaches, just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes loved the videos. Our parents loved the streaming, but there is so much more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Chris, you've taken us on your journey through teaching, coaching, even college coaching, and now it's brought you to your state association in Utah. What are some of the things that you do specifically? And, what do you feel are some of the things that the Utah State Association does in particular just really well?
Well, a couple things like and probably most of our listeners know that we are an NFHS state, and part of that, what we strive to do is ensure that all of our schools, we have 159 members, all are able to compete on a fair playing field. That the rules that for the game don't change based off of your geography or your how many kids are in your school. Um, from our biggest classification, which is our 6A, to our smallest, which is 1A, football rules are the football rules, wrestling rules are the wrestling rules. Ensuring that all of our coaches, administrators are educated on the importance of the rules, and the not only the rules but also the goal of education-based athletics, which is an extension of the classroom, and still working towards all of those things that help make us a better person that you might not get inside your math class. Those teamwork and that adversity that comes through activities and sports, you can't mimic in a classroom. You need to go through, and our activities and sports are really our truest lab classes that our students get to experience. When they move into the real world, they have to work with people with different personalities and for the greater good, which is something again that circles back to making sure that there's a fair playing field, and those things are in place, and we're able to showcase our best skills while also not having to demoralize or tear down someone else or look for an unfair advantage in anything.
Oh, go ahead.
No,
Didn't mean to
go.
cut you
Yeah,
off.
you're good. I'm rambling.
Um, we do a feature here on the podcast with our Florida High School Association, and almost to a person. We've had, I think, probably close to a dozen different sport directors or eligibility people on, um, and they mention a phone call, whether it was with a parent, I know you guys just love when parents call, they don't go through the channels, or a coach or an AD. So I'm going to put you on the spot. In your time with the association, have you had that phone call where, the person on the other end was, upset about something, obviously, probably for their kid, or another school is doing something wrong? Uh, how'd you handle that? And, how do you feel that, again, that's part of your job, maybe not that minute, but how do you feel that, you represented the association on that phone call? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So I think the biggest thing is, and I realized this when I was working at the district, right? My circle got a lot bigger. Um, Most of the people want to be heard. They want someone that's going to listen to them without telling them they're wrong or anything. They just want to be heard. So that's been one of the biggest lessons is sometimes the problems don't need to be fixed. They just need to be listened to. Because again, a lot of them come back to the people a lot of them that we get are rules wanting to be bent for them because XYZ. Whatever it is, whether it be a transfer wanting to be approved, or an ejection being overturned. They want to be heard. And then you've got to figure out kind of how to tell them no, but still kind of use some empathy and have some grace with when you do deliver those no's, um, knowing that at that moment this is the most important thing in their life, and they can't peel those blinders off. Um, so it's taking some time to listen to them and kind of also keeping our cool when we're on the other line, other end. Kind of, we don't need to escalate it, even though if they choose to, many times the passion and anger line gets blurred, and we need to do our best to not escalate those. And again, just comes back to educating the public on the rules because they aren't the same. Our association rules aren't the same as our state rules for enrollment and those things. And usually once that education piece is done, most of the time they understand. They might not like it, but they at least understand why a rule is there and the purpose behind it.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. Now I'm curious. In Florida, we have, the National Federation rules. We have, very few state tweaks specific to Florida. And, we try to educate the coaches, try to educate the ADs. We're hoping that they are going to educate their parents and their athletes. But when something happens, maybe it's a transfer or a lot of times it's an ejection, unfortunately, of a player or a coach. Um, that we have in Florida, we have an appeals process. And I actually sat on the appeals board a number of times as an AD here in Florida. Does Utah have something like that? Let's stay on ejections. If a kid gets ejected from a game, um, there's typically at least a two, sometimes more, game suspension, and many times the parents want to appeal that. So, does Utah have something like that in place?
We do not have an appeal for our ejections.
Mhm.
Um, for coaches, there is, but not for the players.
Mhm.
And it depends what it is. We do have a new one with kind of from our sportsmanship committee on dealing with some of our the language that occurs during some of our competitions. We actually had it in one of our state championship games where a quarterback said or a player said an inappropriate word and led to them being ejected from the game. Um, it's one that our association is realized that it's become an issue with the language being used on the field, and they wanted to take a hard stand on it, and I think for the most part it's been a great thing. And with that, just circling back, there is when that occurs, what happens is the officials throw the flag, right, do all of their mechanics, but part of their mechanics is they pull both coaches over and they have a meeting with them and let them know, this player used this slur or whatever it was, and that's what led to the ejection. Please go talk to your team and let them know it's not going to be tolerated.
Mhm.
So our officials have done an outstanding job in the education of our coaches in the game on when these things are occurring and kind of giving the coaches the why behind it.
Oh, no. Then again, preventative officiating. And also, again, we would expect the athletic directors to
Yeah.
talk to their coaching staff and their student athletes about, hey, this is not going to be tolerated. The final school that I was an AD at here in Florida, it was a great school. It was one of the best schools in Florida. Not because of me, I just happened to be there. Um, we ended up we didn't have a sportsmanship problem, but in talking with our coaches, to make a long story short, we wanted to send a message about how important sportsmanship was. And so the coaches signed off on it. They thought it was a good idea. We presented it to our leadership council. They said, okay. We present it to the student athletes. If a student athlete or a coach got ejected, um, whatever the state handed down, we as a school, we were going to double that. Okay. That's how strongly we felt about it. And we explained it to the kids. It only happened while I was there before I retired. We had that in place for 4 years. It only came into effect twice. Once was with a girl basketball player. An opponent, grabbed the back of her hair, I guess, and she just turned around and swung. Uh, so that's two games. You got ejected. The next day, she's in my office, with the coach, and I'm not, beating her up. I'm just saying, hey, this is our policy, and she 100% owned it. She was apologetic. She was in tears. She goes, I know this is important. This isn't like me. And she was a great kid. So or I guess I, as the AD, I said, I appreciate you owning it. And we only went with those 2 games. We didn't double it for 4. The other one was, I'm not even going to mention the sport. It was another sport. The kid was just the kid was a knucklehead. Okay. And didn't, fought it. The parents wanted me to appeal the ejection to the state. And I'm just, no, we're not going to do that. We kept with that double. We kept with our policy. But anyway, that's enough about me. Um, we're going to go and take another break. We're coming back with Chris, and I'm going to set this one up. We're recording this on December 3rd. So you're hearing it, I guess, almost live. Chris and I are going to talk briefly about some of the events that occurred during college football games this past Saturday. I want to get Chris's take and maybe have a little bit of discussion on that. So come back after this commercial break. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Home Campus for their support of the podcast. Now, Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day, whether it's scheduling, rosters, results, communication. Their student athlete eligibility and clearance platform alone is worth the price. Go to homecampus.com to find out all the things they can do. Even if your state association has a separate platform for scores and that sort of thing, the eligibility and clearance platform, definitely worth your time. That's homecampus.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast. We also want to thank our good friends at Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made as an athletic director was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that web demo today. We also want to thank our friends at Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and then been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with great success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it because it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. It's snapraise.com. And once again, welcome back to the Educational AD Podcast. Chris, this past Saturday, there were multiple incidents of post-game sportsmanship issues at the college level, all around this idea of flag planting. Now, that's, an issue or that's a discussion point in itself, but supervision, prevention, all those other things that coaches and ADs get to do as part of their job. I'm just going to throw it open to you. What are your thoughts on those types of events? And again, it's not the high school level, but it didn't happen at the high school level, but it certainly could because high school kids want to do the same things that college kids did. What are your thoughts on flag planting and post-game sportsmanship?
Um, the flag planting and kind of all the shenanigans that kind of took place over the weekend, I feel it personally took away from that team's victory. You're not hearing about how great of a game Michigan played. Ohio State lost. Michigan tried to plant the flag. There was a fight. That's the headline, and it takes away from the product that those players and coaches have tried to build. And I think part of it goes back to the culture that those programs have, and you either teach it or you allow it to happen.
Right.
They're both on your watch. I do think that especially at the college level, I think some of the shenanigans that take place are are these athletes trying to get recognized and be seen. Just with the landscape of college athletics now, it's not necessarily how good you are, but how many clicks you can get, with just that landscape there. So I'm wondering, how much of it is motivated by that, by an outside influence that's not part of the game itself. Um, Again, I think I mean, personally, it's good TV. I don't want my son doing it.
Right.
Um, it kind of turned college football into the WWF, which is not what it should be.
Mhm.
And again, I just think it takes away from the great product that all of those teams produced. Um, and now it becomes that game, right? It's the flag game as opposed to the game that actually happened on the field.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think that's a great take on it. Michigan had a great victory, great football game, but nobody's
Mhm.
talking about it. They're talking about that. Um, Personally, for me, I'm not trying to get on a high horse. I would tell our team. I never did, but I if this was a thing back when I was coaching, I always said, "Hey, we win. We're going to celebrate with our team. We're going to celebrate with our fans. We're not planting a flag. We're not going to go, whatever, dance on their logo or that sort of thing. We're not
Right.
going to do it. Okay. Now, if somebody beats us on our home field and the other team chooses to plant a flag, hey, if we don't want them to plant a flag, we need to take care of business during the game. We need to win the damn game. Okay. So all those comments about, oh, they're not going to disrespect us. Well, hey, guess what? They already did
They
because they
did, yeah.
kicked your fanny during the game. So now you're going to go
It
out and
just
brawl. Uh,
yeah. They've already disrespected you. They need to save themselves by not doing that.
Yeah, and again, it's you said it. It's taught or allowed. I didn't invent this version of it, but for 25 years, I've always said everything you see, everything, it's either coached or it's allowed. Which one
Mhm.
is it? Okay, and we saw what it was, I guess, for both teams. And then again, with North Carolina State, there's a flag planting, and now I'm having a senior moment. I can't think of the third one, but um, just silly, silly stuff. Okay. And I'm sure it's going to be a topic of discussion at NIAAA here in a couple of weeks and
Yep.
at every state association this coming spring. Chris, let's go and shift gears. You're a certified master athletic administrator. That doesn't happen by accident. By my math, I think only about 4 or 5% of all ADs in the country, junior high, high school, public, private, only about 5% have reached that level. So hats off to you for doing that.
Well,
Take our,
leave it
yeah,
on because I have not reached that level.
okay.
I am
Uh,
still working on my CAA.
all right. Well, that doesn't happen by accident either.
No.
So take our listeners on your journey with your state association as an AD and with the NIAAA on the leadership training courses. How did that all play out for you, or how has that all played out for you?
Well, it started when I was at the school level, and taking the LTI courses. And what those provided for me was I was able to sit in a room with people that all from across the state that all have the same problem, and they're all trying to solve the same problem. And then as you work through it and you kind of end up at some of the national classes and you go, oh, Florida has the same problem Utah does. This school in Florida has the same problem that this school in Utah does. What are they doing for it? So the best thing for me in the NIAAA is the network of support that they provide, and the problem solving that all of the members are willing to help you with. Rarely if you don't get a phone call back from someone when you reach out, it they've gone through it. They want to know what you're doing because maybe what they're having the same problem going, well, maybe I want to try what you're doing because that might work here and you can try what I'm doing. So it's that great interaction of ideas, I think, is critical to the success of any athletic director.
Now, I'm going to ask you to step into the time machine here. Go back to, maybe not the first, but one of your earlier LTI courses. And again, you mentioned it, sitting around the table and being able to exchange ideas. As you heard the presenters sharing the curriculum, and again, the curriculum in all the courses is great. Um, Usually it's one of two, and sometimes both experiences. Were you thinking, "Boy, this is great stuff. I got to bring it back to my school," or maybe wow, this is great stuff. We're not doing this. I have to bring this back from a liability standpoint. Which experience do you remember the most?
Oh, what the hell did I just get into? Is the biggest memory going, this can happen. What just happened? They did what? Going doing the legal courses and you're going, okay, wait a minute. Who thought that was a good idea? Where was the adult in the room? Having some of those thoughts going through my mind was and still when with some of those LTI courses, you're going, okay, I might not be the brightest crayon in the box, but I know that's a terrible idea. And yeah, just kind of going, what we need to be able to take a step back before we do something and make sure that it is the right thing for the kids that are involved in everything that we're doing.
Um, you talked about the value of the network, both within your state and nationally through NIAAA. Can you share an example of how, reaching out to somebody in your network, maybe a long trusted ally or somebody that you just met at the conference, helped you, manage, deal with a challenge that you were facing, either as a building AD or as a district AD?
I don't have one. I think the biggest thing is it goes back to what we were talking about, with working at the association and kind of the phone calls that you get, right? Having someone to where I could just essentially word vomit on and then go, the sun's going to come up tomorrow. Um, I've been there, I've done that. The sun will come up. That's been the most valuable thing and that's happened countless times a year. Where they're just able to kind of pull you out of the dark spot that you think you're in, and they're able to kind of go, no, look at all the things you are doing and the impact that you are making. And that's been the biggest is just another source of you're doing the right thing. Because at the association, unfortunately, our job is telling people no a lot. Um, so we don't make a lot of friends. So when we do have them, it's nice for their light to shine on us a little bit more.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you mentioned that. That's such a great point because, and again, you know this, um, there's nobody else in the building that does what an athletic director does. There's other teachers, there's other coaches, even the principal, they can talk to the superintendent or the APs, but the AD, there's oftentimes nobody for them to talk to. So having that network to just call up, and I love your expression, share, hey, this is what I'm going through. And you're not, again, looking for that solution. Maybe it's just being able to vent and share, know that there's somebody on the other end of that line that understands what you're
Mhm.
going through. So very important. Okay. Chris, this has been great. Spending some time with you, getting to know you, but we're not done yet. We always wrap up with the athletic director's toolbox. Now, you certainly know your way around the world of athletics, but we're going to take our final break here from Athletic Surveys, who sponsored this segment. When we come back, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let you put three things in their toolbox. So let's hear from Athletic Surveys. And when we return, we're going to see what Chris Shipman puts in his new athletic director toolbox. We want to say thank you to Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment of our podcast. Athletic directors already get a lot of feedback, but many times it's from a very small group that just wants to complain. Athletic surveys will connect you to that group because it's important to hear about their concerns so you can address them. But they're also going to connect you to the 98% that supports your program. And having that data is incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with that frustrated parent or student athlete, or maybe your principal or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today with Chris Shipman, longtime athletic director in the state of Utah and an assistant director at the Utah High School Activities Association. Chris, you've had a chance to kind of share your journey, but right now I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their first job, but I'm only going to let you put three items in the toolbox. So, what three things are going to go into Chris Shipman's new athletic director toolbox?
The first one's going to be have your phone book, your contact list on that phone, fill it up with the right people, and knowing when to call for what situation, right? Is it the custodian? Is it the principal? Is this the state association? Is this the head of officials? All of those things, just kind of the contacts and a cheat sheet of who to call for what situation that's going to come up, because they're going to, and there's going to be ones you'd never even thought of. Um, then the second one is build those relationships you have with people, with your other ADs in your network, the coaches in your building, the players, because that's really who we're doing this work for, are for the students and the participants in these activities, and your coaches. You're gonna you've got to have a good relationship with those coaches, because there's going to be a time where you're going to have to tell them no, and they're going to need to be able to take that and know that it's not a personal attack, that the reason behind them, is always going back to what's best for kids. The the other kind of thing, of a piece of advice I would be to be who you are in every situation. Don't change your core makeup when you're talking to the players. The kids can spot phony, and they'll do it. And just be genuine and be who you are. Know your core values and stay to them. Um, and that'll lead you in the right direction. Always keeping in mind, you're doing what's best for kids. That's what everything needs to circle back to. Um, and then the last one is a big bottle of Tylenol. Get used to being uncomfortable. Um, there's rarely a day there's not a fire you're going to have to put out, or a hard conversation you're going to have. So be ready for those long, hard days, and enjoy the success when you do see the triumphs from your teams. One of the best things about the job at the association is we get to give out the state championship trophies. So we get to end every season on a super high note, handing those trophies out to our winning teams.
Boy, I love all of them. I love the Tylenol one too, but um, yeah, just very consistent with what you shared all day long with our interview today. Chris, we didn't do this earlier, so shame on me. If one of our listeners wants to reach out and pick your brain a little bit, maybe they've got a challenge they're dealing with, or just add you to their network, what's the best way that they can get a hold of Chris Shipman?
The best way is going to be to email me. My email address is cshipman@uhsaa.org. Shipman is Shipman.
Well, Chris, thanks again for sharing with our listeners. All the best, with the continued schedule at the state office, and hopefully we're going to be able to connect in person somewhere down the road.
Great. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, right back at you. For listeners, just a reminder, we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day, sharing stories and best practices. So hopefully you'll come back and join us on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Have a great day.